دوستان گرامی، سلام بر شما. امید است که خوب باشید. امروز روز پنجشنبه تاریخ 12 ماه می می باشد که روز چهارم آغاز رایدهی زود هنگام در استرالیا می باشد. یعنی رای دادن برای انتخابات 4 روز قبل شروع شده و رای دهندگان می توانند به پای صندوق های رای حاضر شده و رایشان بیتند. در مورد طریقه رای دادن در ویدیوهای قبلی صحبت کردیم، اما در این ویدیو بیشتر میپردازیم به سومین و آخرین مناظره های رهبران سیاسی استرالیا، آقای اسکات ماریسون و آقای انتونی البنیزی. این که کدام یک از آنها خوبتر اجرا کردن و بهتر تانستن پلان‌های خود را توضیح بدن، در مورد نظرات رای دهندگان، نظرات رسانه‌ها، نظرات رهبران در مورد مهاجرین در این گفتگو و در آخر می‌پردازیم که کدام یکی از احزاب برنده انتخابات خواهد بود. رهبران حزب کارگر و رهبر حزب ائتلاف بیشتر در این گفتگو در مورد بالا بردن دستمزد کارکنان، مراقبت از سالمندان و کودکان، اقتصاد، تغییرات آب و هوا، همچنین آنها در مورد پناهجویان و حفاظت از سرحدات کشور بحث را داشتند که در این مورد بیشتر می‌پردازیم. آقای البنیزی در این گفتگو وانمود کردند که حفاظت از مرزهای کشور همچنان از برنامه‌های کلیدی او است، ولی از لحن آقای اسکات ماریسون پیدا بود که او ویزاهای موقت را به ویزاهای دائمی تغییر نخواهد داد. او خطاب به رهبر حزب کارگر گفت اگر وضعیت ویزای افرادی که با قایق به استرالیا آمدند را تغییر دهید و در حال حاضر تعداد زیادی از آنها در استرالیا هستند، این موضوع پیام واضح را خواهد فرستاد که هدفشان بیشتری بود که اگر ویزای آنها به ویزای دائمی تغییر کنه، در واقع به کسایی که قاچاقبران انسانی هستند یا قاچاقبران مهاجران هستند این پیام خود داد که مرزها باز شد، در حالی که هر دو رهبر تاکید بر آن داشتند که از این سیاست حمایت میکنند که باید مرزهای استرالیا بسته بمانه. که رهبر حزب کارگر هم تاکید کردند که هر کسی که در استرالیا بیاید به این معنا نیست که اونها باید ویزا بگیره. میریم این بخشی از گفتگو را که در مورد مهاجرین و سرحدات هر دو رهبر در موردش گفتگو کردن میبینیم. من کوشش کردم که زیرنویسی در فارسی هم جاهایی که مهم است را بکنم تا دوستانی که با زبان انگلیسی بلدیت ندارن بتونن زیرنویسی در فارسی را بخونن. البته دوستا توجه داشته باشن که این ترجمه کلمه به کلمه نیست، یعنی ما ترجمه کلمه به کلمه نکردیم، ولی فقط کوشش کردیم که محتوای گفتگوی از اونا یا پیام اصلی را از طریق زیرنویس برسانیم. بعد میپردازیم به متباقی موضوعات.
Mr. Morrison, you've said if Mr. Albanese is elected, the boat people will come again. The boats will come again. Justify that.
In August of 2008, the Rudd government abolished temporary protection visas. That was one of the key planks of the border protection regime that the Howard government had in place. That was the mark at which the boats started. Now, we all know what happened after that. 800 boats, 1,200 people dead, 50,000 people turning up, causing chaos. Now, we've fixed that with 3 clear policies. Turn the boats back where it's safe to do so. Offshore processing and temporary protection visas. Mr. Albanese has said that if he's elected, he will abolish temporary protection visas. That means permanent visas for people who have come on a boat. They have learnt nothing in the last decade. I know how to keep them stopped because I know how to stop them. I know what the policy is because I designed it and I made sure it worked. Mr. Albanese wants to weaken it.
Okay, Mr. Morrison. So, Mr. Albanese?
The key to keeping our borders strong are the elements of the plan that would turn back boats, which we support, offshore processing, which we support, and settlement in third countries, which we support. Anyone who comes by boat will not get any visa here in Australia. They won't be allowed to settle here in Australia. We had the same position on all of those issues. What this government did say consistently just before the election was that if people were removed from the hotels that they were in Melbourne, then that would lead to chaos and the borders all being reopened again. They said if we did the deal with New Zealand that's been on the table for such a long period of time, then that would have the same result. The truth is that they changed their position just before the election on those issues. The truth is that where we see a good idea we will support it. And that stands in stark contrast with this government and its approach. The previous answer where Scott spoke about the JobKeeper program, we were arguing for wage subsidies and the Prime Minister said that it was a dangerous idea at that point in time.
Okay, we're not going back there. Prime Minister, the difference in the policies, as I see between you two gentlemen, is that the Labor Party wants to get rid of temporary protection visas. What effect will that have?
If you change the visa status of those who have come to Australia by boat, and there are many here right now, that sends a clear message. I know that because I had to experience dealing with that problem. When Mr Albanese, for the brief time he was on the National Security Committee, was there, they said they would not turn boats back. And they attacked the government. They attacked me. They said we shouldn't do it. And all I can say to Australians is this: do you trust the people who have always believed in it, or do you trust someone who was for it and against it, for it and against it? Mr Albanese has been a complete weather vane on border protection. He was vehemently opposed to it. He said he couldn't ask someone to do something that he couldn't do himself. And so I just don't believe he's got the stomach for it if he were to become Prime Minister.
You know what we need in this country, Mark? We need leadership that is prepared to accept a good idea and accept something that is working when it clearly is. And the truth is that boat turnbacks have worked. I've said we support it. We clearly are sending that message. None of those policies will change under a Labor government.
Mark, can I make one more point on that?
Sure.
Because when you do this, and Mr Albanese wouldn't know this because he hasn't done it, he doesn't know all the circumstances you're faced with when you're implementing this policy. And so he can't speak with any great knowledge about what he'd be confronted with, or the many members of his National Security Committee. Now, Tanya Plibersek could be on there, any number of others. What I know is my team know how to do it, have done it, we know what to expect, and we know how to deal with it.
All right, I'll give it to Mr Albanese. I'll make this one observation though, Prime Minister. No one knows how to do something before they get in the position of how to do it, correct?
Well,
you didn't have any responsibility for immigration before you got in the role, Mr Albanese.
Well, that's just an argument for no change, which is consistent with what this election is about. Consistent with the government that is saying, just give us 3 more years of the same. 3 more years of the same cost of living pressures, 3 more years of not acting on climate change, 3 more years of the same viewing of everything through a political frame rather than through the national interest frame. I believe Australia can do better. I believe we must do better.
این مناظره تلویزیونی که دیشب برگزار گردید، رای دهندگان آقای البانیزی را با عنوان برنده بحث انتخاب کردند. از بین 160 اشتراک کننده 50% از عملکرد رهبر حزب کارگر و 34% از اجرای رهبر ائتلاف ابراز رضایت کردند، در حالی که 16 نفر باقی مانده از عملکرد هر دو یا ناراض بودند و یا در واقع تصمیم نگرفتند که به کدام یک از آنها رای بدهند. بعضی از رسانه‌ها آقای البانیزی را برنده هر 3 گفتگویی که اجرا شد اعلام کرده است.
So we've had 3 debates now. Sky News behind a paywall sadly, but on Sky News with voters. Then we had the Channel 9 one, which was Fight Club. And then we had the Channel 7 one, the final one, Showdown, as they used the dramatic music, and it was all very exciting. And I think if you look at the results, because of course undecided voters are polled in all different ways by these 3 debates, Anthony Albanese won all 3 of them based on the results of those undecided voters. He really needed to win that last one too, I think, to maintain his momentum and sort of the sense of the lead he has.
احتمالاً به همین خاطر است که محبوبیت حزب کارگر استرالیا و شخص آقای انتونی البانیزی روز به روز بیشتر می شود و حکایت از برتری و پیروزی حزب کارگر استرالیا در انتخاباتی پیش رو دارد. ولی با همه اینها باید منتظر ماند و دید که در تاریخ 21 ماه می کدام یکی از احزاب برنده انتخابات خواهد بود.